My name is Charlotte Woods, and I was 32 years old when I found out my family had declared me dead. It happened on a Wednesday night, the kind of night that feels too ordinary to matter later. I was sitting cross-legged on the couch in my small apartment, eating leftover Chinese takeout straight from the box. The TV was on, but I wasn't watching it. I'd just finished a long shift and was half scrolling on my phone, half thinking about nothing at all. Then my phone buzzed. Instagram DM. I almost ignored it until I saw the name. Ethan Miller, a guy from my hometown, not a close friend, just someone I knew well enough to recognize instantly. We hadn't spoken in over a decade. The message was short. Hey, this might sound crazy, but aren't you supposed to be dead? I frowned and let out a small, confused laugh. What kind of joke was that? Before I could reply, another message came through. A screenshot. Facebook. Black and white photo. My photo. 17 years old. Hair pulled back. That awkward half smile I used to make when I didn't know what to do with my face. Under it, a caption posted by my older sister. Forever in our hearts. Charlotte Woods. 1992, 2013. Gone too soon. Never forgotten. My chopsticks slipped from my fingers and hit the floor. I didn't blink. I didn't breathe. The comments underneath made my stomach twist. An aunt. She's finally at peace. A former neighbor. Such a tragedy for the family. Someone from church. God needed another angel. And then, my mother, replying to nearly every comment. Thank you for your prayers. She would have been so grateful. My hands started shaking. I typed back to Ethan. What is this? Who told you I died? A pause. Then, there's a video. Someone uploaded the memorial service to YouTube. Another message followed. Do you want the link? I stared at the screen for a long time before answering. Send it. The video opened with organ music. The camera panned across rows of dark wooden pews, filled with people dressed in black. People I recognized instantly. Family friends. Church members. Business associates of my father. Then the camera settled on the pulpit. And there she was. My mother. Dressed in black, eyes red, hands folded like she was barely holding herself together. We are gathered here today, she said softly, to remember our beloved daughter, Charlotte. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. She spoke about my childhood, about my kind heart, about how I'd always been strong-willed. Then her voice shifted. Charlotte made choices that took her far from us, choices that put her on a path we couldn't follow, and ultimately, those choices led to her untimely passing. My father sat in the front row, stone-faced, silent. My sister sat beside him, arms crossed, looking bored. Then came the slideshow. Photos of me as a baby, me at 8, me at 12, me at 17. And then, nothing. Like I'd stopped existing. When the video ended, I realized I was crying. Silently, without even noticing when it started. They hadn't just lied. They had buried me. I spent the rest of the night falling down a rabbit hole. My obituary, a memorial page. The church bulletin posted online. At the bottom of the bulletin, one line made my blood run cold. Donations will be collected for the Charlotte Woods Memorial Fund. They didn't just fake my death. They profited from it. I checked my credit reports next. Nothing unusual. No loans. No cards. That told me everything. This wasn't sloppy. This was calculated. I searched public records. And there it was. Death certificate filed. March 2013. Cause of death, motor vehicle accident. Location, Kansas City, Missouri. Informant, my mother. I had never been to Kansas City. Ever. Then the timeline hit me like a punch to the chest. They kicked me out in August 2013. But this death certificate had been filed 5 months earlier, which meant my mother had declared me dead. While I was still living in their house, while I was still eating dinner at their table, while I was still working for my father's company, while I was still very much alive. This wasn't revenge. This was a plan. And suddenly, everything made horrifying sense. So now, let me take you back. Back to the night my family decided I no longer existed. August 2010. The night I chose my boyfriend, and they chose to erase me. August 2013. I had just turned 21, and for the first time in my life, I felt like my future was finally my own. I was working at my father's commercial real estate firm then. On paper, I was the heir apparent. The daughter he'd been grooming since I was a teenager. The one people like to introduce as the future of the Woods dynasty. I hated that word, dynasty. I didn't want boardrooms and handshakes and golf course deals. I wanted to write, maybe teach, something quiet, something that belonged to me. And I was in love. His name was Evan, my boyfriend. The reason everything unraveled. Evan didn't fit into my parents' vision of my life. His dad was a mechanic. His mom worked at a grocery store. Evan had paid his way through college, working nights and weekends, scraping by without family money or safety nets. To me, that made him strong. To my parents, it made him unacceptable. That night, I came home just after midnight. The house was dark except for the living room lights. Everyone was waiting. My mother sat upright on the couch, hands folded in her lap like she was about to lead a prayer. My father stood near the fireplace, arms crossed. My older sister lounged in an armchair, scrolling on her phone. And sitting awkwardly on the edge of the sofa was Thomas, my father's business partner. An intervention. My stomach dropped. My mother spoke first. "We need to talk about your choices," she said softly. "Specifically, about Evan." There it was. I didn't sit down. "I'm tired," I said. "We can do this tomorrow." "No," my father said sharply. "We're doing this now." My mother tilted her head, wearing that practiced look of concern I'd seen my whole life. "I know you think you love him," she said, "but he isn't right for this family." "For what family?" I shot back. "The one built on pretending?" My father's face flushed red. "Watch your tone." "Or what?" I asked. "You'll disown me?" I laughed, because at the time, the idea felt absurd. Then Thomas cleared his throat. "Your father plans to retire in a few years," he said carefully. "He needs to know you're focused, that you're not distracted." "By a man who understands the real world better than any of you?" I snapped. My sister finally looked up. "He's a gold digger," she said casually. "Open your eyes, Charlotte." I stared at her. "He doesn't even know how much money we have," I said, "because unlike you, I don't define myself by Dad's bank account." "That's enough," my father barked. The room went quiet. "You have a choice," he said. "Your family, your future, this business." He paused. "Or him." I looked at all of them. My mother's false sympathy, my father's rigid certainty, my sister's smug little smile, Thomas refusing to meet my eyes. And I realized something then. They'd already decided. "I choose Evan," I said. The silence was immediate and brutal. My father's jaw tightened. "Then pack your things," he said, "and get out." I blinked. "You're serious?" "Completely," he replied. "You want to throw away everything we've built? Fine. Do it without our name, without our money." My sister jumped up and disappeared down the hall. She came back a moment later and dropped a trash bag at my feet. Inside were a few shirts, jeans, random pieces of my life. She smiled. "Good luck being poor," she said. I picked up the bag. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I walked out. Evan picked me up that night. We drove until the city lights blurred together, neither of us saying much. We lasted a year. Long enough for my bitterness to poison what we had. Long enough for resentment and survival mode to take over. After that, I drifted. Seattle, Sacramento, Portland. I worked brutal jobs, built myself from nothing, slept on couches, took night shifts, learned how to survive without a safety net. I never contacted my family. I thought they had erased me. I didn't know they'd done it legally. The morning after I discovered my death, I called in sick to work and started digging. My mother's social media was locked down. My sister's wasn't. She'd always loved attention. Scrolling back through her posts felt like peeling skin. There it was, an entire memorial album from 2013. Photos of flowers, condolence cards, a picture that made my hands shake. My sister and my mother, dressed in black, standing side by side. The caption read, "Celebrating Charlotte's life today. Gone, but never forgotten." I found the obituary again. Vague, carefully worded, no details that could be questioned. That's when it hit me. If they declared me dead, there had to be paperwork. Death certificates, medical examiner reports, probate filings. And if those were fake, that wasn't just cruelty. That was felony fraud. I needed help. I called Daniel Reyes, an old roommate from my Seattle days. Back then, he'd been studying law. Now, he was a criminal defense attorney in Portland. We met for lunch. I showed him everything. He leaned back slowly and exhaled. "Charlotte," he said, "this is serious. Multiple felonies. State and federal." "How do I prove it?" I asked. "We pull everything," he said. "Every document tied to your death, and we follow the money." I didn't hesitate. "They buried me alive," I said. "I'm ready." 3 weeks later, we had the truth. And it was worse than I imagined. The deeper we dug, the uglier it got. Daniel worked like a machine. Records requests, probate filings, tax disclosures. Every piece of paper my family had used to erase me left a trail. And once you knew where to look, it was impossible to miss. My grandfather had died in 2015. His will was simple. Each grandchild was to receive $75,000, except me, because legally I was dead. My share had been redistributed. $35,000 went straight to my sister. The remaining $40,000 was transferred into the Charlotte Woods Memorial Fund, a nonprofit created in my name. A nonprofit my mother ran as executive director. Daniel pulled the tax filings. Nonprofits have to file publicly. Over 9 years, the fund had awarded 3 scholarships totaling just $8,000, but it had collected over $85,000 in donations. Where did the rest go? Administrative costs. Rent payments, $2,000 a month, to my father's company. Consulting fees paid to my sister. And of course, my mother's salary. They didn't just fake my death. They monetized it. Then Daniel found the Social Security entry. My name, my birth date. Date of death, March 2013. My mother had even collected a survivor benefit. Small, but federal. That's prison-level fraud, Daniel said quietly. The notary on the probate paperwork? Thomas, my father's business partner. The same man who'd sat silently during the intervention. He had notarized a sworn statement declaring me dead. He knew. By the time we were done, there was no ambiguity left. Forged documents, fake medical examiner reports, a non-existent funeral home, a fabricated doctor. Daniel looked at me one night and said, "This is nuclear." Good. That's when he found the reunion invitation. Every year, 4th of July weekend. Big party at my parents' house. All family and friends welcome. I smiled for the first time in days. Guess I'm family, I said. We filed the criminal complaint first. The prosecutor agreed to wait on arrests. They wanted to see what my family would say when confronted. I booked a flight home. I hadn't been back in 11 years. The morning of the reunion, I felt calm, not numb, clear. I dressed simply, jeans, button-up. The folder of documents felt heavy in my hands, like proof of my existence. I arrived an hour into the party. Cars lined the street. Laughter drifted from the backyard. I walked straight through the front door. The smell of the house hadn't changed. My mother's candles, wood polish, memory. Everyone was outside. I stepped onto the deck. At first, no one noticed. Then a cousin stared at me, looked away, looked back. Her face drained of color. The silence spread fast. My mother turned. The glass slipped from her hand and shattered. "Hey, Mom," I said clearly. "Miss me?" My father froze. Phones came out. I held up the death certificate. "According to this," I said, "I died in a car accident in Kansas City. Funny thing is, that case number doesn't exist." Gasps. I kept going. In 2015, my grandfather left each grandchild $75,000. Mine was stolen because I was dead. My sister screamed at me to leave. I held up the tax filings. 9 years. $8,000 to students. The rest paid to my parents and sister. The prosecutor's complaint was last. "Charges have already been filed," I said. "Fraud, theft, falsifying government records." The party exploded. My grandmother cried. My mother collapsed into a chair. My father stood there, watching his life disintegrate. I walked up to him. "You told me to leave," I said. "I did, and I survived." Then I turned and walked out. The aftermath was brutal. Arrests, news coverage. My mother charged. Thomas charged. My sister's marriage collapsed. My father's business imploded. I didn't attend the trial. My mother pled out. Probation. Restitution. The scholarship fund was dissolved. My name stripped from it. Good. Years passed. I built a real life, a quiet one. I wrote. I worked. I loved. I never forgave them. Then one evening, years later, there was a knock at my door. My father. He told me my mother had died. No anger rose, no grief. Just air. He tried to give me the money. I told him to donate it. When he left, I went back inside and finished making dinner. My boyfriend came home and asked if I was okay. "I am," I said, and for the first time, it was true. They buried the version of me that needed their approval. The woman standing here now, she survived the funeral. She survived the lie. She survived them. And she was finally, undeniably alive.